good afternoon, and welcome to Fortuda's interview series. As transpires from the original meaning of the word interview, to meet someone in person, face to face, this is a format of a more personal nature, which hopefully will make it even more exciting and engaging for you, our attendees. Any interview aims at featuring the best person in this given industry, community, occupation. But what makes a person the best at what he or she does? This question leads to so many answers. Here at Fortuda, for us, one of the most important attributes of the industry leader is the ability to turn every crisis, every threat, every problem into an opportunity. And this is exactly what our guest today does. And it is with great pleasure I would like to introduce Eric Neef, Global Chief Commercial Officer from Radisson Hotel Group. To facilitate the conversation, we invited Mike Chuma, Vice President for Global Marketing from Ideas Revenue Solutions. Mike, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Anastasia. Eric, thank you very much for joining today. I have to say it's an absolute pleasure to have the opportunity to speak with you, and I hope that you and I can have a very meaningful conversation that is something that's informative to the folks on the line here. Before we get started, thank you. Before we get started, folks on the line, I want to introduce Eric. Eric leads Radisson Hotel Group. It's one of the world's largest and most dynamic hotel groups, 7 distinctive brands, 1,200 properties globally, or nearing 1,200 properties globally. Eric has 30 years of experience leading international hospitality groups in the industry. He's got massive amounts of experience across Europe, Middle East, Africa, with a tremendous amount of experience in the Americas and Asia Pacific. Eric has led, as Anastasia mentioned, the global commercial organization. If you're thinking about commercial organization, that's branding, marketing, e-commerce, sales, distribution, and revenue generation. Eric knows pretty much everything about how the marketing and the revenue generation of a hospitality organization works. What I particularly like is his personal motto, and we can get into this a little bit later, which is Carpe Diem, or seize the day. So if we've got a little extra time, we can talk about that. But before we get into some questions in our conversation, Eric, I'd like to just share a personal story. In 2018, I was relatively new to the hospitality industry. I'd come out of running product for global e-commerce sites, a company called Digital River. We ran the Microsoft store, we ran the Adobe store, and I came into the hospitality industry kind of wide-eyed. And being a marketing and product professional, I was had the opportunity to join you in the brand revitalization and launch of Radisson Hotel Group at the Radisson Blu in Berlin at the Dom Query. Yeah. It was a tremendous experience. And I think watching from the outside in, it really changed the nature, the tone, and the direction of the organization. So one, I'd like to say congratulations. I'm maybe a little bit of a fanboy here. But then number two, just thank you very much for spending some time with us to give us some insight onto that experience.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good morning or good evening. I don't know in which time zone you are all, but now I'm very excited to be with you. And to your point, Mike, it was a tremendous event at the time in March. At the time, we were able to travel, so and to gather. That changed in the meantime. But you're right. It repositioned Radisson totally, because we were at the time, for the one who knows or doesn't know the group, we were Carlson Residor at the time, with the takeover of the company by HNA at the time, a Chinese consortium. We had the opportunity to reposition the brand and the group, and then talking to a customer. There was a clear discrepancy between our brands and the company name, and what we wanted to do is to leverage, in fact, the master brand, Radisson. If you look at the logo lockup now of the group, it's all being Radisson or endorsed by Radisson, and all the commercial levers being Radisson Meetings, Radisson Rewards, or RadissonHotel.com also leverage the mother brand. It changed, was a game changer for the company, because every time you talk one of these commercial lever, one of these brands, you're talking about Radisson. So you push your brand equity and your brand reach tremendously. So that was a game changer. It was a nice time, absolutely. We worked 1 year with a whole team on this, but it was worth it. I agree. It was great.
It was tremendous. Yeah, congratulations. Just before we get into some of the interview questions, want to provide the opportunity for people to ask a question. So, as you can see, Eric and I, we're probably going to be a little bit more conversational than some of the if you will, the news show interviews. But in the bottom right-hand section, there is an ask a question. Also, there is a poll. Please do, if you like, participate in that poll. Ask a question is in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, and don't hesitate to ask a question. We'd love to make this as interactive as possible. So with that, Eric, I think one of the things that's at the top of everyone's mind these days and continues now, we are on, I think it's week 29 is something along the lines, I think you had said in your organization. For some, it's a little bit longer into the COVID-19 pandemic. A question that came up is what's going to save the travel industry, in your opinion? And really, do you feel that COVID-19 caused an evolution or a revolution in the travel space? Do you have any opinions on that?
Now, you have two questions there. I will try to split them into two answers. Yeah, the COVID-19 evolution, revolution, transformation. To be honest with you, when you look at the current situation, it's clear and fair to say that 2020 has been unprecedented. Clearly, last year at the same time, nobody was talking about COVID-19. Nobody knew about it, and today see where we are. So the travel industry as a whole has never seen such a global standstill before, because we had 9/11, we had the financial crisis, but what we have experienced here was simply not seen before. If you had told me that we would have closed more or less worldwide, I'm not talking about Radisson only, but industry more than 50% of the capacity of the inventory of all the majors, nobody would have ever believed you. So it's quite impactful. Now, in my view, this brings a transformation and evolution because COVID-19 has fundamentally transformed the way people travel and will travel in the future. That's clear. But they're evolving, and I will try to explain this a little bit later. What we have seen is that the health and safety has become paramount to our customer, and we are working a lot with Google on a daily basis. And we saw in the search that we went from location, price when looking for hotels to safe hotel. So these safety and healthy protocols are critical, and that's why very rapidly in April already we worked with the team here at Radisson on the Radisson Hotels safety protocols to be implemented across our portfolio, but also in partnership with SGS. It's one of the leader of testing and verification companies, because we wanted just not only tell the world we are safe, we wanted to be audited and labeled by the third party. It gives you much more credibility on this. And you saw that all the majors did the same. So everybody was following the guest behavior on this safety focus, if I may say so, an expectation of our customer. And the evolution, because I remember in the beginning we reopened the hotel at the beginning of June. We said to our customer, due to the COVID restrictions, we will not have any breakfast buffet, not a la carte. It will just be grab and go. You have a croissant and you have a coffee in a bag and you go. And you saw 3 weeks later already, beginning of July, our customer pushing us to say, guys, but you need to enlarge your offer. We want to have the buffet again. We want to have a la carte again. So our customers are getting used to, and then rapidly wants to have more, even if they know that there are restrictions in place. So this transformation, because we travel differently, and evolution, because you need to keep your finger on the pulse on what your customers are expecting. Now, to your first question, I don't think we need to save the industry, personally. I think the industry is strong enough. And you know, the people likes to travel, the people likes to discover, the people likes to engage with other culture. So the industry will remain, the fundamentals will remain. We're gonna go through 3 to 5 years difficult, very tough moments because the business is not bouncing back as we would have expected. We will need to rethink the way we drive the operations. Clearly, we will need to rethink our brand standards just to be in sync with the guest expectations. But I'm very positive on the industry, a strong believer that we will get back there. No issue.
Thank you for that. I tend to agree. I take the stance. I think Barry Diller recently said, it was the with Expedia, travel is a fundamental human need to connect, to interact, and I tend to agree with that. I think, you know, to the point of your evolution, I have a follow-up question. Is that you talk about how the guest is already starting to pull organizations towards their need and the things that will drive their loyalty or drive their decision making. Going back to the Google search, you used to see location and price as, like you said, there's the major search indicator, and we would see forward booking indications as to where people would be. And funny enough, we saw things like Seychelles and Mauritius and Hawaii. The Google searches would spike with intent, but there would be no resolution to that intent, and it would fall off. So my question is around safety protocol. So safety protocol is there's I believe it's called the International Travel Alliance, which is a blockchain project between Microsoft and IBM, and giving a safety protocol measure and auditable information. Do you think that something like that is going to end up becoming internationally acceptable to allow for travelers to have a common understanding of what safety is, so they can feel confident about that attribute of the stay?
You know what the major has done, once we have all worked on internally on our safety protocols, we regroup under the leadership of the WTTC, World and Tourism Council, in order to work on these safety protocols that you could apply to the industry. Because the point is that everybody started in silo. One of the first one was Singapore, came in with these safety protocols. India went very fast behind, then the groups came in, then other government and state and region did the same. And the risk on there is that you are confusing your customer totally, because you have so many protocols in place that they don't know at the end of the day what they need to believe. So that's why all the major work together, and we were in the driver's seat with 2 or 3 others, one in WTTC, to put this on the table to say, let's have an industry protocol, because this will be critical. And it is not, in my view, a short-term need. It will be a long-lasting feature that our customers are looking for. Now you see on RFPs for corporate companies, you see the same. In the past, it was all about responsible business, what we are doing on this level. Now today is clearly what are you doing on safety, because they have the duty of care, and this is critical for their people. So our job is to protect our partners or consumer or teams in order to be sure that we deliver a safe environment. So I think this is critical. But the more we will be aligned and integrated, the clearer it becomes for the consumer, and then it has this added value.
Yeah, it's definitely, in my opinion, it's going to have an impact on how the ratings and reviews impact the properties themselves. In some cases, at one point in time, you could see the occupancy and the price somewhat affected by the rating and review. I think it's all going to come together, and it'll end up becoming a new measurement of how of a loyalty impactor, of a satisfaction impactor, and really, oftentimes in some cases, really impacting the net promoter score of the property and the brand.
Totally, you're totally right.
Yeah,
it will become one of the biggest focus on a consumer.
Very good. So we've got some questions coming in. I'll for the folks on the line that are asking those, we've got a couple votes. We'll bring those up here in just a moment. I do want to ask another question. It's following on to the previous question about COVID-19. So the COVID-19 crisis, can you maybe explain a little bit about how Radisson's strategic direction was either impact or how you followed some of the changes due to COVID-19 and how you incorporated that into your strategy?
But in fact, the COVID-19 has hit us tremendously on the daily business, obviously, because as I mentioned, Radisson closed 450 properties out of 1,200 in 3 weeks' time. So we were very caught by surprise of the magnitude of this. Shocked, and then afterwards it was survival, because when you close 450 properties, it's impacting you on all fronts. So that was really the first approach. And then we started in June to reopen. So it hit us on the daily business. Now, from a global strategy, we didn't change the strategy of Radisson Hotel Group. Of course, we did fine-tune it because the safety protocol was obviously not in our strategy, obviously. But going forward to say, where do we want to position Radisson Hotel Group, the role we want to play and on the marketplace, that didn't change. What we are now fine-tuning is what is the answer Radisson needs to give now on the guest experience, because this is coming at the end of the day. This is the guest experience being the paramount and will be your competitive advantage of differentiator. So if I'm taking now to be more in depth into this approach, the contactless strategy was already present in the 5-year plan of the Radisson Hotel Group, or the global strategy. But now we accelerate it, obviously, because the contactless, so online check-in, online check-out, choose your room, call it, it's becoming an urgency to be deployed. And this is where we adapted the execution of the plan, but overall on the strategy we didn't change. And thanks to our shareholder and the vision of the management, but we keep investing, we keep pushing, because it's a tough time, but it will bounce back, and you need to be ready. So it's in difficult time that you need to invest, in difficult time that you need to take risk and opportunities. The same that we are working on our brand portfolio, for example. So if I'm looking at the brand portfolio, we have 7 brands, but clearly we know that going forward, you're gonna have some issues on the independent hoteliers that will struggle big time. We are struggling, they struggle even more. So we are working on now, and we will announce it in a couple of weeks, on a value proposition for independent hotelier, kind of affiliation, to help them to bounce back. So this is something that we didn't have in the plan, that we added, but that's a fine-tuning of the brand strategy more than having another strategy, if I make myself clear.
That's great. I think that also tends to answer one of the question online that's been most upvoted, which is what should a hotelier's top 3 priorities for 2021 be? So given what you've stated, I've heard contactless, I've heard focusing on operations and guest experience to ensure that the new normal of what a guest expects in terms of their pre-stay, their check-in, their current stay, and their post-stay communications are aligned. But given that question of the top 3 priorities for a hotelier in 2021, would you have anything else to add, or would you adjust that based upon the segment and the class size?
Yeah, I think I would just add one thing, is the way that we adapt ourselves to the new normal, knowing that the new normal is evolving. But there are, for the moment, and if you are talking of 2021, I see 2 additional marketing commercial focus to have. The first one, and this is where we have been heavily hit, is on the international travel and on meeting and events. So international travel today, still the Chinese borders are closed, the US borders are closed, the EU borders are closed for international travel, for non-essential travel. So this today, when you look at occupancy of highly international cities, London, Paris, Berlin, call them, we are struggling big time, because we are depending as well on the industry from the airlines. When you know that 75% of the airlines are grounded, you know that the capacity will be limited. So that's the first point. So the focus now on the operators is be really domestic and being what we call a staycation for the leisure and domestic business for the international, for the business traveler as a whole. So this regional component will be, and domestic component will become critical in the overall commercial strategy. The second one is meeting and events. And what I said always to my teams 3-4 months ago, we were maybe 10% in the world knowing the existence of Microsoft Teams and Zoom and Skype and call them. Now the world knows, the whole world knows, because everybody is home-based, everybody is teleworking. So structurally, the meeting and event will be touched. It's not just a 6 months waiting time and it will come back as it was before. It will never be. So we need to be inventive there. We launched yesterday, for the one who follow the news, we launched the hybrid solutions, so hybrid meetings and the room office. What is it? Is it in fact a system where you don't need to travel internationally? You can gather in one city domestically and be connected via satellite with other cities remotely in the world. So you can still have your remote meeting, but the domestic people, regional people can be together in the meeting rooms. So we have partnered with Zoom for that. So you need to be inventive and creative in the way that you drive this business. Now, this business is under pressure, because if you look at the way you are working all, and if you decide 1 out of 2 meetings, I will do it online, and the other one we will do it physically, then you take structurally 50% out of the business. Correct. So this is something that will hit us. International travel will bounce back. It will take time, but it will bounce back. The meeting and event, I think we need to be creative. We, the operators, to find the right approach and the right solution to drive this. And I think the hybrid meetings will be something that will offer to your customer duty of care for the people, will decrease their costs because there's less travel, will ensure also an IT security because it's VPN driven. And that's the biggest issue now, and the risk we have with the teleworking is that you are not VPN safe when you are home-based. So it's the security of it, of your data and not being hacked is quite high when you are teleworking. So this is the type of reflection we are doing to fine-tune this. But so to your questions, beside the guest experience as mentioned and safety, I think on the commercial side of it is to be creative in new offer, keeping in mind the guest expectation and being very regional and domestic driven. for 2021.
Well, that's great insight. I think the insight on the hybrid events and the meeting and events to me is very interesting. A question to continue to expand upon that. Understanding how all the technology needs that you'll need and the investments that the hotels will have to make. What I'm hearing you say is that, in your opinion, hotels are going to have to, and hotel management organizations and brands are going to have to actively invest in something that traditionally was a satisfaction driver, which is internet speed. That's going to bump up to be in one of the top 2 experience drivers for that. So what I'm hearing you say is that when we talk about innovation in hospitality, that innovation is now going to have to be a flip-flop of cost driver, which would be, and traditionally be the front of the house, the food and bev, the bar, because you could run your cycle margins and say 65, 70%, but now you have a cost driver of satisfaction, which is an increased level of bandwidth. And so am I hearing you correctly? Invest now so you can make sure that you can continue to drive innovation in the evolution of that guest experience.
Yeah, totally. Now, innovation, we can talk about innovation. What is innovation? Innovation is, in my mind, is something that doesn't exist, that nobody saw it, and you come with something that the big thing. So this happens every 10 years. Clearly the evolution of the mobile phone to the iPhone of this world was one of these innovation. Now in the hospitality, I think that, and you were mentioning this innovative hospitality. I think this is more the right approach. It's in fact try to implement something that exists to enhance your guest experience. So you have your check-in online. Everybody is used to have the check-in online on the airlines. Now, in the hotel industry, it's not there yet. And you have no operator today having implemented across all the properties. They've implemented in one region, in 2 regions, in one segment, but not totally. So for me, the contactless is one of the next big innovative hospitality industry components, because there's something that your customer is asking for, but the real differentiator will be on the execution, because this is where we are failing. And we are working today, and I think we are not the only one, on the choose your room principle. What is the choose your room principle is what you are doing in the airline for choose your seat. And you can choose your seat. The only difference is in the airlines, and that's what the people not, and when I say people, it's consumers and corporation, are not always understanding, is to say, when you choose your seat, you get a floor plan on the airlines. That's it. Where you want to sit, on the aisle, you want to sit on the front, on the back, and that's it. In the hotel industry, you have 10 to 15 to 20 different room types, different views. So you cannot just give a floor plan. You need to show pictures of the room, of the views. You need to have a 360. So the complexity in the hotel industry is, compared to airlines, much more tougher. So this is where the innovative hospitality is to bring this. It's not an innovation as such, the big thing that doesn't exist. It's how do I implement it into the guest experience? And for me, and it's critical in Radisson, not only for me, but all the team in Radisson, is to be really state-of-the-art in the execution. Because that makes the difference. And you have a lot of marketing, blah, blah, where groups announce ABC, but in fact, you find it only for the rewards member. You find it only in some properties in the US or in Europe or in Asia. So the guest will expect to find this globally. And this is where I think that the innovative hospitality is in fact to be very close to your consumer. We have created a guest experience committee within Radisson. What is a guest experience committee? Is to take, as you said, all the reviews, all the quality check we are doing, putting this data, understanding also with Google what is the consumer looking for, and putting on top of it the trends, and then having an evolution month by month to say, guys, we need to focus on this one because this is coming very focus of a consumer. And so how do you implement this as soon as possible, and consequently, and I would say an approach to be better to have 80% implemented than looking at 100 and never implemented it. So right to failure exists, but at least you move fast, and you're keeping close contact to your guest experience. We went from a product strategy to a guest experience strategy. So we went there already since 2-3 years into this approach. The hotel industry as a whole. It's not about the bed and the shower anymore. It's about experience. So about the experience, then you come to the big discussion of data, because data we have enough. So innovative hospitality is also what is on the back end. How do you treat the data? It's not a lack of data today. It's how do you manage the data to make it understandable and to drive your strategy. And so that's why we are investing for the moment a lot on AI, on robotics, because a human being cannot manage it anymore. There's too many data.
Yeah. Well, you're starting to talk to us about something near and dear to my heart, given that I'm at a company that focuses on machine learning data to drive decisions. So, I want to pull on a small thread there. Is that you talked about moving from a product company to a guest experience company, but you use the example of airlines. And if you think about how you break apart the product that you're selling to the guest to drive that guest experience, you still have a shower, you still have a bed, you still have a door. It's located throughout somewhere on the property. Really what you're doing and what the airlines have done has broken that down into the attributes of the particular product that they're buying that will drive the guest experience. And so two questions. One is, do you feel like you're moving more towards an amalgamation or a combination of product plus guest experience, because the product is now a driver of that guest experience, given the fact that you have to focus on cleanliness, you have to focus on other aspects of the stay? And then the follow-up question is you talked about data. What are you doing, or what should hoteliers be doing to prepare themselves to focus on being able to handle those attributes and being able to price and be able to offer the product in a way that they need to consume it, a la your airline example?
So for me, Mike, the safety protocols is not about product. It's guest experience standards.
Guest experience.
Guest experience standards. So it's a combination of product. Of course, the first criteria is location. That we know that is since 70 years the same case when Hilton and Holiday Inn start the journey. So location is key. You have your product, but if I'm taking Europe, for example, all the major groups are working with the same 50 designers in Europe. There's not more than that, more or less. So when Marriott, when Hilton, when Accor, when Radisson is coming with a new product on the market, it looks nice, believe me. You don't make the difference there anymore. So the real difference is your guest engagement at the property level. And this is for us in Radisson critical. So what we are doing now is to taking out of the operations all the satellite and back-end expertise, to centralize it in a center of excellence, to really have the people focused on the guests. The hotelier, as such, is the expert on guest engagement. This is critical, and they need to be busy with this. So, and the data will help you at the end of the day to drive your personalization, because it's all about personalization it's coming to. So, and you have data to understand the trends, and Google is for that an amazing source of learning, because you see what the people are looking for. You have your data based on your guest behavior through your loyalty program, through other database that you are building, in order to understand, in fact, the consumer expectation. And where it's critical there, and that's what we are building now for the moment, and we didn't stop even with the COVID, is that we are working on the integrated IT system, because you have so many, and you know that, you have so many different back office system, you have so many systems in silo next to each other. They are not talking necessarily to each other, and then you need to pull the data from 3-4 different systems. What we are building is a vertically integrated system, from CRS to PMS to CRM, and then you have the 360 degree of the view of the customer. And then, of course, you can then drive your activity in personalization towards this customer. And of course, you have the back office data that you need to have from the financial perspective. So this is, in my view, how you need to structure the operation. Now, the personalization and the guest experience can only be delivered if you have a data-driven sound strategy. And this is where we need to have the hoteliers, because they are second to none to engage with customers, but you need to give them the information they need to drive it. This is, in fact, the relationship in between the regional offices, head offices, and your hotel guest experience properties.
Very, very good. I have to say, you've struck on a note that that I absolutely agree with, and I think, which is, there's a question from the poll that I want to address here, which is what is one of the long-term opportunities the pandemic has created for the industry, and this is not necessarily. I'll take this one, because I think what you've hit, Eric, is that you've pulled out one of the quintessential needs that will help. We talk about innovation that will help the hospitality industry not just innovate, but come to a new operational normal. And it's something that I like to call the connected commercial organization, which you can talk about the data in silos, you can talk about the revenue management, you can talk about the CRS, you can talk about the PMS, you can talk about every other system. But if they're not talking and you're not able to get insights from that connected data, you'll end up not being able to make the appropriate moves to drive what is most important, which is that guest experience. And if you think about what everyone learned in their marketing one-on-one courses, which is place, product, price, promotion, it's very, very relevant to the hotel industry, place being location, is that connected commercial organization. And so, to answer that poll, I do think that's one of the long-term opportunities that is not being created by the pandemic, but being brought to the forefront as a way that we can openly invest as an industry to drive the ability to move forward and not be constrained by the decisions or the systems that we've had in the past.
Yeah.
So I commend your organization for investing in that vertically and integrated solution.
And the integration of the solution is key. You know, today I'm supervising and leading the whole commercial organization, and we have really conscientiously taking all the levers of the commercial organization to one integrated approach. Mm-hmm. Because what you need to do at one point, is to create demand. That's our task. We need to create demand. And once you create demand on top of the funnel, then you come to the end of the funnel where you have your guest staying at one property. And then you have all your layers. Is the guy coming, the customer coming through the OTA? Fine. It's a channel that he decided to do. Are we able to change his behavior? I'm not convinced, because if he's going an aggregator, it's because he wants to book his airlines, he wants to book his rental car. What you can do is that once he's at the property, is try to convert him to become one advocate and one fan of your brand. Mm-hmm. And if you go down the funnel, you have your revenue management also telling you for this property at this date, for this segment, this is the price. It's the right price for the right customer to the right property at the right time. So it's an integration of everything, and I think this is where the operator, successful operator will come out is if they are able to integrate the data as a whole and integrated all the commercial levers in one strategy. Because otherwise you have parallel strategies in different topics. When we are talking about digital, and we are talking of this on a weekly basis, we are combining the team working on distribution with all the third party and the team working on digital direct channels. We need to know to each other what we are doing. And this integration is critical. It's the way that you'll be able to drive the performance.
I couldn't agree more, and I'm very excited, and I'm sure many people on this webinar are going to be excited to hear you say that. But they're also going to ask themselves a question, and maybe you can give some insight into that, because you're in the midst of it. You've been in the midst of it since, I believe, 2018, if not earlier, of that connected commercial organization, an integrated commercial organization. Operationally, how would you feel that is going to impact the traditional roles that have created those silos? Revenue management, distribution, sales, and marketing, all the way even down at the property level, that oftentimes fight with each other in their weekly meetings to say, how are we going to create demand? I need to get a marketing program. And the salespeople are focused on, how do I need to change my sales? So how do you feel like, what's your perspective on how those traditional roles are going to change going forward? Are they going to go away? Or are they going to combine?
No, I think that the roles will stay. If you tell me tomorrow we're going to get rid of all the sales team and we bring to zero and we put everything on digital, it will be a wrong decision. You will still need salespeople because you have global contracts, you have a need for traditional sales, if I may say so. Maybe you're going to downsize this to invest into digital. It's true. Today you have, if I take the numbers of the industry, and the one of Radisson are very close to, is 55 to 60% is going online. So only 40% is going in the traditional way, direct hotel. So you need to downsize your team and to adapt your scale. But the critical thing is to get rid of the silo, is to give to all this team the same objectives. As long as you give the same objective to everybody, at the end of the day, everybody will work towards the objective. And I think that the mistake we did in the past, and we did it with Radisson as well, we had different objectives for the salespeople, from the revenue management, from the marketing guys, and so they were fighting for their objectives, what also makes sense. So we created also from an head office perspective or brand perspective, sometimes maybe a mistake, and we created unconsciously this silo. Now we have here in Radisson, under the same leadership, 2 or 3 common objectives that everybody is following. And at that moment, you ask yourself, in this position, what do I need to do to help the company to obtain and to reach the objective? And everybody has a role to play, and is complementary. And of course, you have the tension in between the revenue management and the sales, because at one point on the Wednesday, when everybody is full, you close everything to get the bar rate. It's a healthy discussion, and but at least I would like to have this every day, because it means that I'm full every day. So I would be very happy to have the fight every day in between revenue management, sales, and marketing. So it's healthy, but everybody needs to have the same objective, and this is critical. Again, integration of the way you tackle your strategy, but also the way you incentivize your team. And then when you are in sync, it manages itself very well.
Very good. I think that's fantastic insight, and to me, it gives a tremendous amount of insight into how you need to lead your organization through that transition, because it's more important now than ever, especially now that you've got compressed costs coming in. You know, one of the things that I guess to peel back the guest experience in the current world, in the post-COVID world, depending upon whatever the therapies or the vaccines look like, is that your cost basis is going to adjust. The types, what used to be, if rooms revenue was number one revenue driver or profitability driver, then next would be food and beverage, next would be, small groups or large groups. That's going to adjust. And so I think it's very, very insightful I would challenge not just familiar brands versus smaller or independents, is look at your business mix. Understand how your business mix then matches back to how you need to drive your operational efficiencies. Because that's then going to help create those common goals across those siloed organizations, because in some cases, it may be better for you to continue to drive indirect business versus direct business, because you have the ability to take advantage of the marketing efforts and the search rankings on the OTAs, where in the past, your mindset would tell you go towards direct business because you don't have the commission costs. But I just think that is the type of innovation of thought or tweak innovation of thought that hotels need to take globally to continue to drive sustainable health outside of this pandemic. So
I'm totally with you. I would just add one element to it, is
sure.
that the focus will be very domestic and regional. So you need
Absolutely.
to find the right answer by countries. If I'm taking now the Nordics market, very online, from a behavior perspective, or I take the Middle East market, where it's much more offline driven, you cannot implement the same strategy. So what to your business segment is also all your customers domestically are reacting and are behaving. And this is critical. So we need to be lean enough to give to the areas also the flexibility to come up and with the idea and the right approach for this customer, because it will be very domestic, and we are convinced today that your business will be driven by 80% domestic instead of it was in the past maybe only 50, but now it will increase. So I'm with you. Then afterwards you need to see by country what are the type of reservation funnel that they are using. And the OTA is an easy channel to leverage, knowing that, to be honest, in between the two biggest, you see one overperforming the other big time. So there also you see difference. And then you have your B2B one with the travel management companies as well. So you need to understand how the business is structured region by region and country by country in order to take the right decision, because the one size fits all it's over, certainly now, because your international travel is done. So it's becoming again much more granular at the regional level.
That's very good. Given the fact that we have 8 minutes left, and I want to be mindful of everyone's time, I've taken some questions from our poll. I'd like to ask a question, and this would be from my own personal question. So on a personal level, earlier at the very beginning, I mentioned that Carpe Diem, or seize the day in English, is your personal motto. What has COVID-19 taught you on a business and a personal level of how to seize the day when it relates into business, or even if you want to go into personal life? How has this impacted you and your business career?
Well, on the Carpe Diem motto, I think you need to leverage what you have at the moment you live. The past is the past, it's over. You cannot just go back in time, and the future is unknown. So the Carpe Diem, even if you need to give a direction and trajectory, it's still unknown, and you need to seize the present. And when you think nothing is written in stone, and nothing can be taken for granted. Look at COVID-19. Let's put our lives upside down. I remember when I was with friends on the New Year's Eve and wishing everybody all the best, and then 3 months later, you were in a total unprecedented time where you close all the properties. So it's a reminder that and a learning that how fragile the things are, and unpredictable they are, and somehow uncoordinated. And on this one, from a business perspective, my biggest frustration is the lack of coordination in between the different nations, how they have managed the COVID. If you look at how China has driven it, or the US is driving this, or the EU, it's just impossible. You're paralyzing the whole business because one country or one state is deciding A or B without coordination with the other. And this is all this color of orange and red zone, and it's just a mess. So I'm not surprised that our consumer are not traveling because they don't know tomorrow if they will be locked down, if they will be able to travel back, if they need to go on quarantine, they need to test. So that's for me. So nothing can be taken for granted, and nothing is written in stone. So that's for me a critical one. The second one is I was amazed, and this is something that we know, but it's time of crisis, of that you realize this is our capacity of ability as human beings to adapt ourselves. Look how we lived in Jan this year, and how we are living today. If you would have told the world that 3 billion people would have been locked down, that now 5 billion people are wearing masks all day long when they are in public spaces, you would have believed it. And the human nature is to say, okay, this is a crisis. We're gonna close. We're gonna shut down the businesses. We're gonna accept to be locked down. We're gonna be closer and take care of our family much more than we were doing in the past. And then you adapt yourself. So this is, for me, from a human being perspective, it's the fact that you are able to adapt so fast and easily is mind-blowing. One concern I have, to be honest, when I'm listening different opinions and opinion leaders, still there is a lot of people that think that once we have the vaccine, that everything will be solved, and we're going to go back as it was in 2019. And to be honest with you, I don't believe this. And I'm very concerned about this because, you know, the vaccine, my brother-in-law is doctor, and I was in the same approach to say, yeah, the vaccine will be the game changer. And he told me, Eric, you know the flu? Yes, of course I know the flu. Do we have a vaccine for the flu? I said, yes, we have a vaccine for the flu. And do we have still deaths due to flu in the world? He said, yes, we have. How many? I said, I don't know. I said, I tell you, 300,000 deaths a year to the flu with the vaccine. So the message was to say, we will need to learn to live with this COVID. Of course, the vaccine will help some of the stuff. It's not totally useless. That's not what I'm saying. But you will not be able to deliver 3 billion vaccines in 1 year's time. So you will have also the discussion who is benefiting first and so on. So I think that we need to take the opportunity now with this COVID-19, the crisis we are really dealing with, to change the way we live and to try to be much more safety conscious, RB conscious, because what we did in the past, and again, it's when you stop doing things that you realize what you did. In the past, you could take a plane and flying 6 hours for a meeting of 3 hours and come back, and everybody was okay with this, and nobody was asking it. And now today you say, was it necessary? No, maybe not. So you need to adapt yourself, and I think we need to take the opportunity now to build a better world. That's my personal thought on this. We have an opportunity, and we need to leverage. Definitely.
Very good. So thank you very much for letting me ask you a more personal motto question. I think, you know, the key there is that you can relate that back to our industry is that, one, there is coordination and collaboration. It's not that it doesn't exist today, but in order, if we were to take your personal philosophies back, which I think they're fantastic, relate that back to the industry: coordination and collaboration. You gave an example of a connected commercial or a vertically integrated commercial organization, but also vertically integrated into your operational organization, understanding that every point along the spectrum of when you begin to interact with the website on your look before you book, all the way out to your post-stay messaging and what you have in how you the hotel and the brand can remind you of the experience that you had in the in-betweens, how clean the room were, how friendly the staff were, etc. So that coordination and collaboration needs to continue.
Yeah.
But it also needs to be done, in my opinion. I learned a new phrase, and I apologize, I can't remember who it's attributed to, but fortune favors the fast. And what that means is it's the agility. And what we've learned in COVID-19 is the most successful organizations are the ones that are the most agile and can react the quickest with the right amount. You made, and to relate that back is, we need to evolve to our new normal, and that's the catchphrase. But really what that is let's be mindful of the things that we need to do. And if you take that back to running a hotel organization or running just a company or even your own life, is be mindful of the things that you need to do, and be ruthlessly prioritize the things that you don't, because you have to understand that your impact now has a much wider spectrum of influence on the things that you do. So, well, Eric,
the biggest point is that I hear experts in the industry and in the travel industry, in the tourism industry, projecting that the industry will recover by 2022. Other ones are saying 2023, 24, 25. So you get everything on the menu, so you can choose. And the truth is, we don't know.
Mm-hmm. It's a forecast.
So again, you need to drive your strategy with the balanced short-term opportunities, understanding the customer behavior. Try to be really focused on your strategy, because this is something that you have worked on to reposition or to position your company. And then you need to manage it and I like your agility, because this is what you need to do. The safety protocols is something in the industry was not existing 6 months ago. So you need to be agile enough to create it, to integrate into the guest experience. So what we need to do is to be very close to a consumer. And this is something that maybe at one point in the history of the industry that made the OTA so big, is that we didn't engage with our customer. Why? Because it was not needed. Because when one customer was leaving the company, the property, unsatisfied, you had 3 other ones waiting at the door, at the front door. So the industry was in a situation where it was not the big focus, and we were product driven. So now we need to be very close to your guest and to their expectation, and then to be agile and to adapt very quickly to the new norm. And the new norm is evolving. Look at how the consumer is reacting in between June, when we reopened, and today. It's sometimes you ask yourself, do they know we have still COVID in the country, and the virus is still there? So. But you need to go on this path as well. So that's figure on the pulse and very close to a consumer.
Well said. Well said. Well, we're up on our hour. Eric, I want to say thank you very much for taking time and joining us from the Radisson Red Room there at your headquarters in Brussels. I appreciate the insights. I appreciate the time that you've spent with us. It's been fantastic to hear about not only about Radisson, and your view on the industry, the strategies that you are employing, and how you're reacting to COVID, but also thank you very much for giving us some insight into your personal philosophies. So thank you very much.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks, and with that, I'd like to welcome back Anastasia.
Thank you, Mike. Today, when I was writing a remind email to the event attendees, I asked them to bring some paper to take notes. I used all of mine, and the most beautiful moment is when listening to the exchange of ideas between the speaker and the moderator, their insights, their thought process, you start coming up with your own thoughts, with your own ideas, with the answers to your own questions. For us as event organizers, this is the main mission, to create a setting which will enable each and every one of our attendees to go through this process. And I think today we totally achieved this. And I would like to thank Eric and you, Mike, for helping us to do that.
It was a pleasure, really.
It was my pleasure as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like, of course, to thank all our attendees for finding time to tune in. And I would like to close up with Eric's motto that he shared with us, Carpe Diem, seize the day, wishing exactly this to all of our attendees. And again, thank you and see you soon at our next event.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.